Good afternoon, happy Thursday, and welcome to another Chamber Check-In episode from Idaho's only 5-star accredited chamber. Today, I'm so excited to feature the CEO of the Idaho Non-Profit Center, Kevin Bailey. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
I'm terrific. Beautiful day out there. It's coming close to the weekend, and we have some exciting things to talk about.
Absolutely. Can't complain.
No, it doesn't help anyway, right?
That's right.
Hey, Kevin Bailey, CEO for Idaho Non-Profit Center, also chair of the Chamber's Nonprofit Council. So thank you for those, for your efforts there as well, Kevin.
Yeah, happy to serve.
The Chamber committees and councils and advisory boards are great ways of connecting Chamber members in those specific industries to bring issues up to our policy committee. People don't know this, but our policy committee helps our chamber leadership understand what we're going to lobby on behalf of that's a pro-business mission at the State House. And so everybody in the state gets to benefit from the chamber's advocacy mission, whether you're not a member or not. So that's why we ask members to invest, is so that we can, reduce the cost of corporate income tax, reduce the cost of unemployment insurance tax that businesses pay, among other things that the chamber does. But so thank you for your service on the Nonprofit Council, Kevin.
Yeah, happy to serve. A lot of folks don't realize that nonprofits themselves are also part of the business community. Charities employ over 67,000 Idahoans directly in Idaho, and like other small businesses, because most of our charities in Idaho are, between 5 and 15 employees. We have the same kind of dynamics that any small business faces. And so that policy work is so important in making sure that what happens in the State House is good for nonprofits and good for our communities. So yeah, happy to serve there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a P&L as well.
That's right. Yeah. At the end of the day, we have to make the math work and keep people employed, and then continue to carry out those services which our community relies on. So it is a business, right? But it's a business that does good.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin, we love starting off these chamber check-ins with a little story and background of our members. So tell us a little bit about you, Kevin. Bring our listeners up to speed on your history of work, and how did you get involved in the Idaho Non-Profit Center?
Yeah, it was sort of by accident. I didn't grow up in Idaho. I grew up in the cold, snowy winters of Minnesota, Minneapolis area. When I got out of college, I had some international experience. So my first nonprofit job was actually overseas in Uganda. I helped a nonprofit get started that was working in kind of a refugee camp environment, and we were installing solar-powered computers and long-range Wi-Fi systems, like very basic infancy of the technology when that was kind of coming out. And that was kind of my first learn by being thrown into the fire nonprofit experience. Plus it was in an international environment where we didn't have running water half the time, electricity wasn't there. And, I was sort of tasked with putting together this organization and finding local leadership. And I just sort of fell in love with the work from that point. The dynamics of it, how to build an organization, how to be scrappy, how to write grants, how to fundraise, build a team, all of those things that are core skills in the nonprofit sector. And then I took kind of a 180-degree turn after that and actually became a teacher, followed in my mother's footsteps, who was a 40-year public educator in my hometown. So I got my master's in education, went into the classroom for about 3 years, and just realized I wasn't meant to be contained in 4 walls for 40 plus years, although I do love teaching and building curriculum and all of that. So I kind of took those skills and then went back into the nonprofit sector, and have basically been in nonprofits ever since then, working mostly in human services organizations. I worked in my wife is from Omaha. So before we moved to Idaho, we were living in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was working in a neighborhood center, directing programs that were helping folks who were new to the community, a lot of single mothers, clients in real extreme poverty, helping them get their GED, helping them access the food pantry. There was a small business startup kind of program that would help them with that, parenting classes, these wraparound services that are so core to anyone who's experiencing poverty. And so, yeah, I've really just enjoyed that work. Fast forward a little bit from there, and we were kind of looking to move west. We weren't really sure. We had kind of drawn a big circle in the Intermountain West region, and I ended up landing the CEO job at the United Way in Pocatello. That's what brought Idaho from Omaha, Nebraska. So that was kind of a big shift to go from Midwest, the flat Midwest, and Omaha's a little bit bigger than Boise, but not by much. And so, going from that size city to a pretty small college town was a big shift, but it was just like such a great opportunity to jump into that, how nonprofits in a community like Pocatello just make all the difference in helping that community thrive, in the partnerships with the university and city government and in the community. And so, and then I came to the Idaho Non-Profit Center. We were members when I was at United Way in Pocatello and knew about the work that was going on. My predecessor had left for a different job and they kind of recruited me over, and our kids were still, I think the oldest at the time was about to enter kindergarten or just finished kindergarten. And we said, let's move to Boise while it's not a huge disruption in their lives. And here we are. It's been 3 years this summer in the role, and loving mostly every second of it. And it's been great. I think we're here for life. So.
It's only been 3 years, Kevin. It seems like you've been around for a lot longer than that as CEO.
Yeah, time flies. So it's been fun. It goes too fast. There's not enough time in the day to do everything that we need to do and everything we want to do. That's the challenge.
So I often talk about all the great causes that are in the state of Idaho, and I just think it's amazing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how and why and when did the Idaho Non-Profit Center get its start?
Yeah, it started in 2001. And at this point, there were similar organizations popping up in other states like Montana, Utah, and so forth. These central kind of 30,000-foot organizations that were helping, similar to how a chamber would help for the business community, that were helping the nonprofit community really build capacity. And when we say build capacity, we mean, how do you help small organizations, by and large, again, between 5 and 15 employees is kind of that average. How do you help them be great at everything they do, whether it's fundraising, executive leadership development, nonprofit finance, board governance? There's a lot of responsibilities that nonprofits have, and certainly everyone has to wear a lot of hats. And so these kind of organizations that started popping up, and folks in various communities were trying to think through this. What would it look like to have a statewide nonprofit that really helps support and strengthen the nonprofit sector? And so in 2001, Idaho Non-Profit Center was born. It had a slightly different name at the time. It wasn't a membership organization at the time. That would take another 10 or so years before we became a membership organization. And but at the heart of our mission, ever since the past 23 years, has really been all about strengthening nonprofits, helping them be great at what they do. And then since then, we've added the membership piece. We've got over 800 nonprofit members across the state. We've got a business affiliate network. So, other chamber members who provide business to business services, whether it's IT, graphic design, marketing, can be business affiliate members, and then support, again, our membership of nonprofits. And then we added the advocacy work, right? So making sure that we're at the table in the state house and sometimes in federal legislation to make sure nonprofits, what happens in those buildings is good for nonprofits and good for the charitable sector. So it's evolved quite a bit. We have a team of 6, so it's a small but mighty team. And we try to be everywhere in the state as much as we can on a limited budget. But that's the big challenge, is Idaho is a huge state. So we wish we had like 3 times as many people to cover all that ground.
Right. Wow. I always forget that you're a membership organization. Tell me a little bit about that. How many nonprofits invest in what your work is? And then how many registered nonprofits are there in the state?
Yeah, so we are north of, I think at the end of last year, we had about 850 nonprofit members across the state. Wow. About half of those are probably here in the Treasure Valley, which is great. And that mirrors the population. So that's pretty normal. And then we have board members from all over the state, of course. A lot of our board members are nonprofit executives themselves, so they're able to really inform and help our strategy from that respect. And then, there's about 2,500 financially active nonprofits in the state. And a lot of those are, itty bitty, teeny tiny nonprofits, your Rotary clubs, all volunteer type groups that maybe do 1 or 2 event type of things a year. But our core segment is kind of those mid-sized nonprofits. We have members as big as St. Luke's and St. Al's, which are huge, the biggest nonprofits in our state. A lot of people don't realize the healthcare system largely is a nonprofit charitable healthcare system. But our core services, where we're really kind of hitting the sweet spot is in those organizations like locally, Catch, the housing nonprofit, Jesse Tree, some of the arts orgs, you name it, those kind of medium-sized nonprofits that invest in us, invest in our advocacy, invest in the capacity building, and so forth. So we've got great organizations like Terry Riley Health going through a couple of our programs right now. We've got, so you name it, it's all across the spectrum, all types of subsectors, from the arts to the environment and conservation to healthcare and so forth. So it makes my job fun because I get to peek under the hood of a lot of different types of organizations.
I love it. And my wife and I, we have 3 school-age children, and all the events that they're in, with the Little League organizations, there's all those types of nonprofits. And I think it's just great where people in this community can give back to the community to rise all tides through the nonprofit sector. Tell us a little bit about an event that people would know about with the Idaho Non-Profit Center.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Idaho Gives is 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away. So April 29th through May 2nd is our annual Idaho Gives campaign. So we started that program about 12 years ago, and there was giving days and usually they're run by kind of metropolitan areas, but Idaho, being a large area, being a place where we really had rallied the nonprofit sector as a state, we started, my predecessors probably 2 or 3 back, had started Idaho Gives. So this is the 12th year. It will this year likely pass the $25 million total raise in the lifetime of the program. It started out as an itty bitty giving day, just a few $100,000, maybe 100 or so organizations participating that first year. And the last handful of years, the total giving amount has gone up to right under $4 million, and over 600 nonprofits are registered this year to participate. And that's been about what it's been the last few years. So that's super exciting. I mean, we put that on for the benefit of the sector. It's our opportunity to be the cheerleader, to get up on the soapbox and talk about all the great things that nonprofits do for our state. We like to say Idaho runs on nonprofits. So whatever community you're in, you walk down Main Street, you're going to see the arts, you're going to see healthcare, you're going to see environmental conservation, access to trails, you're going to see, delivering meals to seniors, all of these things, housing supports, veteran support. So all the things that help our communities thrive, nonprofits are central and core to that. And we really want to get that message out into the public so that the public knows, hey, if we want nice things in our communities, we're going to have to invest in nonprofits because for better or worse, we don't get a lot of support as a sector from state and federal sources. There's not a lot of government money typically coming into nonprofits. So it really is that private individual household support as well as corporate support. That's a huge private corporate support is a huge source of income for the sector.
When does Idaho Gives Day kick off this year?
April 29th. So it's a 4-day giving event, April 29th through May 2nd. Yeah. And so the giving portal at idahogives.org is open even now to see who's registered, to see, you can sort by cause, you can sort by location. So if you're kind of shopping for a cause and you're interested in food insecurity or housing, you can find those causes and see who's participating. So it's, that's one of the things too, is it's really an event to get new donors in the door. Last year, about 13,000 folks jumped in and gave through Idaho Gives, which is, it's a huge number. It always blows my mind that over 4 days, 13,000 people are going there to give part of their treasure away, which is, no small feat.
Right. Well, I love it. When we do the ceremonial ribbon cutting for the day coming up here, next week, you have all your computers open right there. So people that are there can just give right there. And I always go and, $20, $15 to whatever one you want to do, animals, youth sports, you name it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, we have 3 young boys, and so they're trying to understand what money is. Basically, our oldest is 8 years old. And so we'll give him like a budget of $50, and the lowest donation you can make is $10. So he'll go on there last year and select, 5 different organizations to give $10. Not surprisingly, a lot of those ended up being animals related organizations.
Of course.
He had watched a lot of Wildcrats or Bluey or whatever, shows are on right now that I unfortunately have to watch in the background. But, it's just fun to see them kind of develop that charitable muscle. Like, we want our kids to be, involved in the community. We want them to be civically engaged. We think nonprofits are an entree into civic engagement. You know, so many, like, board service at its function is like at the heart of what democratic norms are. Like, democracy runs in part through that civic engagement that nonprofits are a part of. And so strengthening our democracy is nonprofits are core to that. And I think getting our kids involved is key as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to remind our family that, hey, Idaho Gives is coming up, and I like that. Give your kids a little bit of money there to give however they would like. I love it. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Hey, while we have you on for a couple more minutes, is there anything else that you'd like to educate the public on?
You know, just we ask people to jump in, find the causes they care about, find ways to get involved in the community, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. IdahoGives.org over the next couple of weeks is going to be a one-stop shop for that, and just really appreciate folks helping nonprofits.
And I'm glad you've expanded it to a few days, because you know what, that even just heightens the awareness about the event.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listeners, remember to like and share our YouTube channel, and stay tuned in for tomorrow as we hear from the Flowers CEO, Lisa Roser from 50flowers.com. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next week, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks, Paul.